Inside the Arena is presented by Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel, Seattle's closest sportsbook.
Welcome to Inside the Arena, your source for everything off the ice, off the court, and outside the field of play. With your hosts, KOMO Sports Director Niko and KOMO Senior Reporter Chris Daniels.
Can we officially call this season 2?
I suppose we could. Yeah.
Episode 53, back at it again.
You know, unlike The Last of Us, our season 2 will be better than our season 1.
Oh, well played. Well played.
It was so good.
And we're not zombies.
No. That's your takeaway.
And we are in Seattle. We're actually shooting it in Seattle.
Yes, we're not just pretending to be here. You know, it's
See what we did there?
Yeah, I very much enjoy the show. Let's put that out there. However, Inside the Arena season 2, it's going to be even better.
Yeah, because we're going to probably continue to talk about the potential return of the Sonics. You had a great interview in episode 52 with GP. This week, another Sonic, Vin Baker, the great Vin Baker. And we get a little serious on this podcast, talking about everything that he has been through, everything that he is trying to now do to better society, help his fellow man in Milwaukee, and what he hopes to do in Seattle. We get in depth with Vin Baker on his road to sobriety and his time in Seattle, and that's coming up a little bit later.
Yeah, it's a really inspirational story when you consider what he's done as a player, and obviously the missteps he had, but how he's, you know, not just recovered from that, but is trying to help other people avoid that same situation. It's, you know, we talked to him a few months ago too, and it was just like one of those things you came away from like, yeah, this is pretty special what he's been able to do.
And he's now working with Giannis. He talks about all of that as well. That's all coming up a bit later, but what do we like to do every week, Niko?
The Four Corners.
Yes. What's good, what's bad, off the ice, off the court, off the field of play. What do you like that's good this week?
Yeah, I think that it's getting real with the Club World Cup, and I know you have something that isn't so great with that coming up, so I wanted to balance it out a little bit from the standpoint that I'm really excited for this event. You know, it's funny, like little nuggets of the event, you know, it's only about a week or so away coming out. And it just strikes me as so neat. Like, for example, that Inter Milan is going to be using the VMAC as their headquarters. Yeah. I'm like, wait, what? That's so cool. You know, the Sounders are going to share their facility with the club from Argentina. You've got the other, interestingly, the clubs that the Sounders are actually playing, like PSG and you know, Botafogo and some of those other guys, they're all training down in California and then coming up here for the matches. So just, I know that's like such a minor thing, but I just think it hits home then how special it is. We've talked about it at length on this show. That's really highlighting how special our city is in the sports scene. And certainly I think that people that aren't quite aware of how big the Club World Cup is, and maybe obviously everybody knows what the FIFA World Cup is, they're in for a little bit of surprise, not just with how fun it is, but there's gonna be some congestion around Lumen for those couple of weeks there too,
because the kickoff times are not normal for most of those matches. And it was kind of fascinating, Niko, to be watching the Champions League final and thinking both those teams are going to be in Seattle in just a few weeks.
Yeah,
it's going to be interesting to see what PSG does and who they bring and who they play, given that they just had that lengthy of a season and that they just wrapped up their season, so to speak, a few weeks before these matches here in Seattle.
That's a big thing to point out. I was actually talking with Michele Giannone from the MLS on Apple TV, and he's like, listen, this is the off season for these huge clubs over there, and don't look at it as just the Sounders against Goliath. Look at it as the Sounders may have an opportunity. They're still a talented club to knock somebody off. It's not just, it is a great opportunity to grow the brand beyond domestically, because, you know, there's going to be fans in Europe that are watching the Sounders and saying, who's this club? And maybe they knock somebody off here. It's within the realm. And even if the Sounders are joking, Obed Vargas is like, knew who's going to have to guard that guy.
Yeah.
Like, it was kind of funny to hear him say that. So, but that's just it. It's such a unique thing. It's kind of like if you're a Sounders fan, it's like, what if?
Right.
Well, you finally get that what if.
Yeah.
Like, it's mythical almost.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's the first time FIFA has tried something on this scale with the Club World Cup. It'll be going on all around the country. And yes, I'll talk a little bit about it on the back half of Four Corners as well.
Yes.
But I will tell you what else is good. I talk about mixing your metaphors, home run transaction in the world of hockey.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Mixing metaphors. Yeah. Professional Women's Hockey League. We've talked about the expansion franchise coming to Seattle. They're in the midst of actually the expansion draft, which is it's a little bit complicated and a little bit different than what other leagues do. But really, the other teams in the current 6-team league, so they're adding 2, could only protect 3 players. And so the question was just how good will Seattle and Vancouver be? Because they're going to basically be able to pick most of the players that they want from these other teams. And immediately when the lists of the rosters came up, you think, oh boy, Hillary Knight, wouldn't that be just a great fit in Seattle? She's from Sun Valley, Idaho. She's been the U.S. team captain. She is so decorated. You could list off all the medals she has, 15 medals on the international stage, 4 medals at the Olympics, including a gold. She's been the captain. She's been the captain of the Boston Fleet. She tied for the league lead in goals. And guess what? Hillary Knight was left unprotected. And guess what? Seattle picked her as the first player in PWHL Seattle history. Talk about building a franchise and marketing a franchise from day one. You have the face of women's hockey in America that will be the first player in Seattle history. She has the Northwest ties. I just cannot think of a better fit when you're trying to market a new franchise than Hillary Knight.
No, everything you said is perfect. And that's just it. I think especially the first season, there's always going to be excitement, but the fact that you have Hillary Knight kicking things off as that cornerstone, this is done right. And I'm sure, obviously it's not a franchise. PWHL is running things, but man, if you're a fan of the Seattle Hope Evergreens, I thought that was perfect when you came up with it.
Yeah.
That's going to make everything just that much more compelling, that much more interesting. I think it's going to be really special, but you couldn't ask for anything better.
If you even just have casually followed women's hockey, if you have just casually followed hockey on the Olympic stage, there's one player in the U.S. It's Hillary Knight, and she is going to be a member of the Seattle franchise. I just think it's a huge positive.
Oh, it's huge. I love it. That's the most positive we've had in a long time. We've got some good positives on this show, but it's up there. It's really good.
So what do you not like maybe this week?
Yeah, small rant, but it's a rant nonetheless. I'm talking about a Seattle Storm who did nothing wrong. Yet, if you asked a casual WNBA fan out there, it's like, well, they've had all these investigations. Well, one was an investigation that turned up nothing back in the winter, and one wasn't even an investigation. And what I'm talking about is reporters on Wednesday going out there and saying the Seattle Storm is under investigation. They were never under investigation. And it's just so irresponsible. And I saw a couple of reporters saying, oh, update, it's not an investigation. It was just something that was reported to the league. Well, the damage is done.
Yeah.
That didn't have the 10,000 likes and whatever retweets that the first one did.
Yeah.
And, I know some off the record specifics that I've shared with you in private, but so I'm not going to repeat any of that stuff. But the fact that you've seen some of the stuff out there. A coach, a staff member of the Storm used profanity against another player. Welcome to professional sports.
That happens all the time.
If I had a dime for every curse word I heard at a Storm, a Seahawks, a Mariners, a Kraken, a Seawolves, a Huskies, a Cougs game, I'd be rich. This is sports. And I'm not condoning profanity, obviously. Yeah. I'm just saying it happens. It's commonplace. And, the fact that it got reported to the league, okay, they have to say something about it. That is not an investigation. And the reporting on it leading up was quite, it was irresponsible because, people who are just happen to be scrolling X or Instagram or whatever it was, say at noon on Wednesday, and maybe didn't check back. They think the Storm's under investigation, and they never were. Were they in this instance?
And when a story like that gets leaked, there is probably a motivation behind it. Somebody wanted to do damage to the Storm. But to your point, within 24 hours, the air is cleared up. There's more that's known about the complaint and what was behind the complaint. But to your point, the tweets have already been out there. The posts have already been out there. The Reddit chats have already been out there about what's going on in Seattle when it turns out to be something that's pretty routine in the world of competitive sports.
Yeah. And like you said, those things get leaked. It's the same thing I say about the conference realignment stuff when you see reporters on X being like, well, the SEC is looking at this school or whatever. So, well, who do you think leaked that?
Yeah.
That school, most likely. You know,
it's the same thing as, when agents are trying to leak about transactions and who may be interested in going somewhere else.
This could have been an agent, honestly, on this one that leaked it too.
There is always a motivation behind it.
Yeah, so that's my negative is that, the Storm, if you look at the national perceptions, had these two things come out in the last few months. And they, the one thing that was an investigation, an independent firm found they did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
And this wasn't even an investigation. They didn't do anything that you don't see anywhere else in sports. And that's what I really lament is that, there's a reputation, certainly not with the most important part, the players. I mean, the players know.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But that was maddening as everything unfolded yesterday.
Well, I'll take the negative as we round home, and you alluded to it as you led off down first base as we head home. The negative, if people haven't followed this, it's all really off the field drama. The Club World Cup coming to Seattle. The Sounders are a part of that. There is a question on the prize money that's going to be distributed by FIFA as a result of hosting an event that they've never hosted before to this scale. And other leagues around the world are going to distribute that money to their players. What we have now seen in the last week or so is the Sounders players come out on the pitch wearing shirts basically saying we need more money out of this thing.
Yeah.
Because of the collective bargaining agreement that was signed so many years ago, they're only going to get a fraction of any prize money. So this prize money, when you compare it, an MLS franchise taking their share of the pie versus what other players and other leagues across the world would take, it's minimum wage. It's a tiny amount of money.
Right.
And this is something that was discussed in a collective bargaining agreement a decade ago. Nobody thought that FIFA is going to throw around $1 billion in prize money or millions of dollars to teams at that time.
Yeah.
That's why the Sounders players are frustrated.
And they should be.
And the Sounders ownership is frustrated because it's coming up a couple of weeks before they're trying to sell out the stadium. And I think if you pay any attention to the airwaves, to ads that are on buses, the ticket sales are not what I think FIFA was expecting out of the gate in terms of where they set the price points, in terms of what was sold to Sounders season ticket holders. The market's been a little softer, I think, in ticket sales than what the Sounders or really FIFA or any other MLS team. Messi down in Miami is having the same issue with ticket sales. So this is all kind of stain is not the right word, but a couple of weeks out from what is supposed to be a major event, it's kind of putting a little bit of a damper on it.
And that's the MLS needs to adjust, of course. I mean, I understand there's a contract, there's a CBA. It's easier for Niko to say it in the studio but they can do something.
Yeah.
Right. And again, like you said, that CBA was hammered out at a time when this step was never even thought possible. And like you said, you look at the numbers and it's staggering how little compared to what the MLS will just take in pocket.
Right.
Right. And Sounders ownership, like you said, they want this too. It's not like it's an owners of the players. No, it's like the MLS is kind of like in their own world on this, Well,
and for Seattle and for the Sounders ownership, in their defense, they want to put out the best foot forward here, installing temporary grass, wanting to show the world that this is a destination for future cup games. Not only the World Cup in 26, the Women's World Cup in 31.
Yeah.
They want this to go off without a hitch. And so to have the players wear their shirts, that's the frustration. I'm sure in an ideal world, the Sounders as a franchise would have worked out something differently with the players, but they're all under this collective bargaining agreement. Now it's New York's problem. Now it's Don Garber's problem. And we'll see if there's a solution before they actually get to play in the games.
Getting kind of close for that, though.
Yes, it is. Right around the corner. You know what else is right around the corner? And we like to do a Supersonic Minute every week.
Right.
Full disclosure, folks, we're recording before Adam Silver addresses the media in Oklahoma City. Yes, I said those two nasty words, the Oklahoma City team down there. There's the air horn.
Hey!
You know how many people are going to be watching Oklahoma City in Seattle?
Well played.
I mean, at least in bars, because we know they're going to be watching the NBA Finals on KOMO News, but people in bars that get together to normally watch the NBA Finals, they may be throwing things at the TV when they see Oklahoma City play. But Adam Silver is going to be addressing the media there. We'll be talking about that next week in the Supersonic Minute. I think we're dedicating the rest of the show to a great Supersonic, and I think what he has done even in his post-playing career has been better than maybe what he did even in Seattle at the time. We're talking about Vin Baker. We go in-depth, we get serious, and you'll hear it right after this.
Luxury awaits at Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel. Book now for an unforgettable summer experience. Opening this August, wake up to breathtaking Cascade views, enjoy world-class dining, and play your favorite games. Visit snocasino.com. Seattle's closest is now Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel. Luxury awaits at Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel. Book now for an unforgettable summer experience. Opening this August, wake up to breathtaking Cascade views, enjoy world-class dining, and play your favorite games. Visit snocasino.com. Seattle's closest is now Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel.
All right, Vin Baker, a Sonics legend. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for joining us inside the arena.
Thanks for having me, Chris. I appreciate being on the podcast today. Looking forward to it, brother.
Well, let's get everybody up to speed who may not be following everything on a daily basis. Where are you right now? Where are you in the U.S. and what are you up to with the Bucks?
Yeah, currently in Milwaukee. This will be my 9th season coming up as an assistant coach. I've been here coaching. I started off my second career here doing pre and post game, and then went on to the coaching side, and I've been coaching for 8 years. This will be my 9th season coming up. So here in sunny Milwaukee right now, enjoying this weather, and eventually heading over to Greece to work out with the big fella for a few months.
Hey, you've been at the center of it all with Giannis.
I'd say that, Chris. It's been very. I've been a lucky coach, a lucky guy. To be able to work with, one of our greatest players of our generation, and he's a wonderful young man. And I obviously had a chance to come back and win a championship with him 4 years ago, the first in 50 years here in Milwaukee. So a lot of amazing things have happened on the basketball side. I'm glad to have come back here and be a part of the organization and the team that drafted me, and then coached what we believe is the best player in the world.
I think he's right up there if he's not number one. And I won't ask you about his future and what's going to happen here in the offseason. Besides, you're going to be training with him in Greece, which we'll talk about here near the end. In terms of coming back and forth to Seattle, a lot of people still think of you in high regard in the city of Seattle for your time with the Sonics. We know about the trade. You and Sean traded in that big trade back in 1997. How often are you getting back to Seattle now?
I've been back, Chris, I would say 4 times now, 4 or 5 times. I've been working with Rise Above and working with that amazing group there. I've had an opportunity to see Coach Carl, to see Lenny Wilkins, to see Detlef, all the Sonic greats, and then spend some time in the community, just going around and talking to some young people, speaking with some young people. Very excited about the opportunity to bring Vin Baker recovery to the city of Seattle. So just spending some time in the city that I spent so many years in, and coming back and reminiscing and remembering so much that happened there. But more importantly, thinking about what I can do in the city to help, as I've done here in the city of Milwaukee, by bringing the Vin Baker recovery here.
Yeah, Rise Above, a great organization, by the way. So let's get into it in terms of how you went on this recovery journey, how that is connected to your time in Seattle, how it's connected even to Starbucks. When did you realize that in your playing career that, hey, something isn't right here and something needs to be corrected? Yeah,
probably in my second year, Chris, I started to experience, the alcoholism, the addiction to alcohol. And like anybody else, I mean, coming off of being a 4-time NBA All-Star and 2-time All-NBA, like anybody else, though, with this disease, it doesn't discriminate. And I struggled with it mightily in my tenure there in Seattle, unfortunately, and just didn't understand that I was struggling until I was struggling. And like any person who struggles with the disease, denial, didn't want to believe it, was too embarrassed to talk about it. It obviously affected the way I played, the way I conducted myself on the court as a professional athlete, but I really struggled off the court. But by the grace of God, over the years, after leaving Seattle, I was introduced to the blessing of sobriety. And so I've enjoyed 15 years of sobriety. But again, it was, 15 years of sobriety as of April 17th, and just continue to take it one day at a time. But that was a very tough point in my life, a dark point in my life, just because I've become addicted to alcohol.
And this was something that I don't seem to remember a lot of people knowing about at the time.
Yeah, like for me, I won't speak for anyone else, but being a functional alcoholic at the time, but the disease was there. I was struggling mightily with it, and again, reaching the pinnacle of basketball, with the exception of winning a championship. Individually, I had done everything on the court, and I think I struggled with reaching out and being honest and being transparent about where I was in my life. It took me years and years and years to get to a point where I could be honest. I literally was at a point where if I wasn't honest and transparent about where I was going to physically die. That's how bad that it had gotten. And, the years in Seattle was kind of the beginning of it. And then there were years in Boston, years in New York. And then I finally had to hit rock bottom in every facet of my life. I had to hit rock bottom financially, physically, spiritually, reputation, before I really decided to go and get the help necessary for me to save my life, not salvage my career, but save my life. And I'm glad I did.
And I know a lot of Sonics fans don't hold Howard Schultz in high regard, but Starbucks and Howard Schultz came into play at a certain point, did they not?
Yeah, Howard, once I got sober, I think it was my first year of sobriety, I reached out to Howard. And just because he had been a friend to me while I was in Seattle, really monitoring my situation, even when I was traded to Boston, really caring about the person, not just the basketball player. And so I reached out to him, and Howard and the family, the Schultz family, really helped me get back on track. I was introduced to the Abyssinian Baptist Church, where I went for 2 years. I was the youth minister there, the youth pastor there. And then everyone knows I went to manage at a Starbucks for a year, which was a great, humbling, great experience for me. But all that came from Howard's help. My ministry started with his help. And then certainly the time I spent at Starbucks kind of getting my life back on track, and working. Something that I wanted to do. For me, I was sober, and I was so excited about being sober. It wasn't about lost 100 million, former NBA All-Star, now works at Starbucks. It wasn't any of that. For me, I was living life on life's terms, and I was so grateful to have the gift and blessing of sobriety. And yeah, Howard and his family, Jordan, Sherry, the whole family played a tremendous part of me getting back on the right track.
And then as we move forward, how do you take this with you and decide I want to help other people and open a sobriety center in Wisconsin?
So Chris, it was like so interesting for me because, when as you're getting sober, like that narrative always sticks. If you're a professional athlete, the narrative of, what I was and then what I became always sticks. And even when I got sober, no one was interested in, just this sobriety story. More often than not, people wait for the car to just crash all the way. And so I just watched the narrative, and I kept getting better day by day, year by year. Got the opportunity to come back here and work for the Bucks, a great organization. Peter Fagan, John Horst, the ownership group here gave me a chance, took a chance on me to come back and do pre and post game. And then I went to the sideline. It started to happen pretty fast. My first year of doing TV, I went to the sidelines, and I really never looked back as far as the coaching part. Where the center came in, I had my partners, Charles Ray and Michael Erico, reached out to me and, said, there's an opportunity for you. Would you be interested in opening a center? And I was obviously ecstatic about the opportunity. I had done all the stories. I'd written a book about it. So the next steps for me was to see how I could help the community overcome the same obstacle I'd overcome. And so myself, Charles, and Michael, we partnered and, reached out to some wonderful people who helped us from the financial side. And we opened this 16,000 square foot building here in Milwaukee that's, as of now, we opened it last year, April 4th. And as of now, we've served 150 patients here in the city of Milwaukee. So it's my day job is coaching. My passion is recovery. And as you know, Chris, all of us are affected by addiction in some way or another, and certainly mental health. We all have family members, friends, somebody who's suffered from that. So I am determined, obviously based on my testimony and story, to help as many people as I can get sober.
And I think you told me like you're there almost every day, if not every week, and at the center, and it truly is your passion.
Yeah, because what happens, Chris, is one thing that I lost in when I was going through what I was going through. You lose hope, and people underestimate how big hope is in people's lives. I don't care if it's addiction or anything. And so what I do, I'm not the expert on the medical side. I do know a lot about the medical side, but what I do at my center is I'm able to provide my testimony, and I'm able to provide hope. So when I go in, the patients are pretty excited because they obviously know me from the Bucks. I'm Coach Baker, not Vin Baker. They know me from Coach Baker, and they know my story, and it provides hope. And I've had some wonderful hugs and wonderful stories told. I walked in last week and I met a young man who was waiting in the lobby, and I went out to meet him. He had just rescued his mom from a burning building, and he was going through something at the time and rescued his mom from a burning building. And just, those kinds of stories and testimonies and moments for me are incredible. It makes everything worth it when I have those kind of encounters.
And you told me you'd like to expand your horizons, perhaps open one of these recovery centers in Seattle. What can you tell me about that?
Yeah, it's my passion. The two cities that I played the most in, Milwaukee, and I have one here obviously now, and I want to open a center in Seattle. Interestingly enough, Seattle is the place I want to go next because that's where, my issue started. And I just want to give, pay it forward, give back to the community. Basketball is one thing, Chris, and the Sonics will be back soon. I had a great experience in the city of Seattle, but also had a very dark moment of my life in the city of Seattle. And I want to share what God has given me, which is sobriety, the ability to combat sobriety through therapy, through medication. I want to bring that back to the city where I struggled, where the struggle started. I think the opportunity is there. Just like people know me here in the city of Milwaukee from being drafted here and playing here 4 years, I'm certainly known in Seattle. So I want to bring this beautiful gift back of sobriety and help as many people as I can get sober and help as many families as I can.
And there's a beautiful full circle idea there too, coming back. And I know that you've come back and made appearances with Sean Kemp, and that was a full circle moment, given you were traded for each other way back in the day. You're aware of what's happened here in the last couple of weeks in Seattle. Have you had a chance to reach out to Sean yet since you've reconnected?
Yeah, I haven't, Chris. I plan on doing it this week. Sean's for everyone, in 1997, this, big trade that'll always be in Seattle Supersonics history. And I don't think a lot of people know how close Sean and I have become. He's my big brother. I was a fan of Sean Kemp prior to being traded to the Seattle Supersonics, and now he's my big brother, and my prayers are with him. And not only my prayers, my support is with him. He's an amazing guy, amazing person. Over the last couple of years, we've had a lot of opportunities to talk and chat, and we just, we have a bond for life. And so my prayers are with him and my support is with him, and he'll overcome this obstacle. He's He's a great human being. He'll overcome this.
Well, you mentioned off the top about plans for Greece. This is something that you've done now for how many years? Going to Greece for the summer?
Yeah, I am. I think I'm a common law resident. I don't even know if that's a thing, but I've been there for the last 5 years, 5 or 6 years. This will be my 6th year going to Greece to work out with Giannis. So I'm somewhat of a resident there in the summertime.
And it's hot. From what I hear, Greece is really hot in the summertime.
It's hot. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. Scorching hot. So many beaches. And I'm from New England. And I played in Seattle. And the seafood is amazing there, Chris. I'm not going to lie to you. I love going there. And I usually come back about 10 pounds heavier of crayfish and whatever fish they got over there.
But it pays off during the NBA year, right? In terms of spending that time with Giannis and working him out and doing it in a hot environment.
Yeah. One thing about him, Chris, is I'm very fortunate and blessed to have the opportunity to work with him, and he's the hardest working guy I've ever been around in the sport. He's very intentional and very serious about his career, and it's so interesting because after my career and what I went through, just to be around him and see and kind of live vicariously through him. He works. He's again, one of the hardest working, if not the hardest worker in sports. I mean, last year we went from May 31st, literally when the season was over, working for him to get to qualify for the Olympics, go to the Olympics, and then get married in the same summer, and then come back and average 30, 13, and 6. So he's an amazing basketball player, hard worker, and an even more amazing human being. So it's great to be around him.
Well, Vin, again, congratulations on 15 years of sobriety. Congratulations on opening up the recovery center. We hope to see you soon here in Seattle again.
Chris, thank you so much for taking the time. I'm coming back to the community slowly but surely, and I appreciate you giving me this opportunity to talk about Vin Baker recovery. And we will be in Seattle soon. I know it. I feel it. I prayed about it, and hopefully we'll be there sooner than later.
This August, luxury awaits at Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel. Book now for an unforgettable summer experience. Visit snocasino.com. Seattle's closest is now Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel. This August, luxury awaits at Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel. Book now for an unforgettable summer experience. Visit snocasino.com. Seattle's closest is now Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel.
Just love that conversation with Vin. I love how honest he was there, and good for him. He gets to spend a nice hot summer in Greece too with Giannis.
Nothing wrong with that.
No,
yeah, that's cool.
He's living a good life. We hope that he comes back soon and has success in trying to help others in Seattle. And we will be back next week, right?
Absolutely, David Lee, take us home.
You've been listening to Inside the Arena with Niko and Chris. Please subscribe on your favorite platform. Until next time.
Inside the Arena was presented by Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel, Seattle's closest sports book.